Hey all you Beatstars out there, I hope you are having a great day. Well, it's May 2022 and Beatstar has just released their new quality of life upgrade to the game that comes with two key feature enhancements that we, as a community, have been asking for quite some time. The first, more forgiving hold swipes. Yeah, clap in the comments for that. So personally, I'm a big fan of hold swipes. They're a fun little mechanic that mixes up the beat maps and they're super satisfying to play when pulled off correctly. However, prior to this update, the end arrow part of the hold swipe required really specific timing like a regular note, and it was always kinda off and didn't quite synchronize with the music and was usually a source of aggravation for players, especially when it was the only source of one or two perfects that prevented a player from getting a diamond perfect run. So this remedies that. Well done, Beatstar. Now the second thing that Beatstar changed is a little more controversial because what's different in the game now are the mechanics behind how hold note tick points are scored. Now the spirit of this change is very well-meaning, and it's meant to remedy a previously unintended consequence where it was literally impossible to get max points from a hold note if you started off by touching the screen in the wrong spot. Kinda silly, right? And to their credit, it's no longer impossible to get max points from hold notes, but the way they went about changing makes it slightly more likely to drop hold note ticks depending on your playstyle. So the objective of this tutorial is to break all that down so that you can be a more informed Beatstar player and go get those diamond perfects. So real quick before we hop in, just to set the stage, why are we even talking about this in the first place? Well, as you build up your Beatstar chops and you get familiar with the charting and you know how to sync your device and your scores go up, you may come across a scenario where you get a score that looks like this, or this, and you go, whoa, I just got all perfect plus notes. Why didn't I get a diamond perfect medal? And the answer is because of these hold tick mechanics, and that's why this information is so critical, so that you can be more likely to get those well-earned diamond perfects when you score all perfect plus notes. Let's get started. As a refresher, here's hold note 101. This is a hold note. It's got three components that I call the three T's. You've got the tap, which plays like any other note and needs to be timed properly to get the max score. You've got the tail, which represents the length of time that you need to hold down the screen to score the ticks, which are the little bursts of points that are scored throughout holding the tail of the note. So Beatstar did nothing in this update to change the tap portion of the note. They still need to be timed properly just like before to get a perfect plus, and they also didn't change anything with the tails of the notes, meaning the length of the holds in the beat maps were not changed. What did change in this update was a removal of what I called in a previous tutorial the so-called final tick gap, where it penalized a player and didn't allow them to score their final tick or last burst of points at the end of the tail if they touched the screen for the tap portion of the note above the perfect plus line. And while this fix is generally a good thing, it appears the way that they went about fixing it is by shifting the hold note scoring up in the note, if you will, ever so slightly. As a result, there's no more final tick gap, good thing, but what we're left with is a variation in time of when the hold tick points are scored, again as a function of where the player chooses to tap the screen for the tap portion of the note. So the best way to illustrate this is visually. We're going to do a deep dive analysis of the touch because A, there are a ton of hold notes in that song which causes players to see this phenomenon, and B, the first hold is in like the first 5 seconds, so it doesn't take me long to record. Now what you're about to see is me playing the first hold note of the touch 5 different ways, and the difference in each is where my finger is going to be placed for the initial tap portion of the note. Now, a really important distinction I want to make before we watch the analysis results is that the timing of each of these 5 runs for the tap portion of the note is exactly the same. I score a perfect plus because I've timed the note into the perfect plus hitbox the way it's meant to be played. What's different is where I choose to tap the screen while keeping the timing perfect and watching the results of the hold tick scoring accordingly. I bring that up because it's a source of confusion for a ton of players. I see a lot of people on the social media forums saying, well, duh, if you tap above the line, it's going to be a perfect. Of course you don't get the right score. Or if you tap below, that's not where you're supposed to. The key point is that timing is fundamentally different from finger placement and location. Now, to increment each study, I'm using a very official measurement called width of my index finger. So what you're going to see is in the first clip, I'm starting the tap 2 index fingers worth of width, if you will, below the hitbox. The next study, 1 index finger below the hitbox, followed by directly on the hitbox and perfect plus line, then 1 above, and 2 index fingers of width above the perfect plus hitbox accordingly. To create the study, what I've done is imported each of the 5 runs into my professional video editing software and made them all exactly the same length in duration down to the frame. The next part, I take frame-by-frame analysis and find the exact moment in time when the first part of the hold note is scored, registering that perfect plus. After that, I go frame by frame to find the exact moment in time when the score 502 first appears on the screen, which is indicative of when the final tick of this hold note is scored. From there, it's simple math, taking the final time, subtracting the initial time, and we have a frame-perfect duration of how long it took between the start of the tap and the end of the hold tick in each of the 5 case studies. From there, it's simply comparing the results of all 5 of the runs to determine if a particular hold note play style has a disadvantage or advantage in terms of scoring. Don't worry, I won't bore you with the footage of every single run, but I will illustrate the first one, which is 2 index fingers of width below the line, juxtaposed against 2 index fingers above the line for maximum contrast. So here you can see the first run. And here's the result on the screen. Here you can see the last run of the study and its result on the screen. And here's a fun shot of all 5 runs side by side, articulating the cascade of when the final tick comes in real time. So at this point in the video, you might be asking yourself, hey, Vertigo, isn't this just an academic exercise? I mean, Beatstar told us to basically just hold a little longer to make sure you get the points. Isn't that what we have to do? And while that's a very fair comment for most of the songs in the game, I'm here to tell you that it does matter when it comes to certain beat maps that have very little time to jump from the end of a hold note to the next note in the beat map, especially if you play in thumb style or with 2 index fingers and you don't have much time to react before leaping off of that hold. And it's not limited to just extremes or really fast hard songs. Here's a couple notable examples, 1 being Superman and 2 being Tonight Tonight, and making the hop from the hold note to the next note can penalize a player if you play with a suboptimal playstyle. So the punchline to this entire video is to say that prior to the May 2022 update, if you have adopted a playstyle that plays below the perfect plus line to ensure you score a final tick and diamond perfects, you now are better off by adapting your playstyle to play on the hitbox or maybe above the hitbox depending on the song. And while that's kind of annoying for players like myself who have been playing 6+ months in a certain style, I do recognize and agree that this change on the whole is better for most of the player base because it eliminates a hidden mechanic that really was detrimental to allowing people to score their first diamond perfects. So that's my breakdown of how the new hold mechanics affect gameplay so that you can be a more informed player. What do you think of the new changes, and is it affecting your style or not? Leave me a comment down below, and if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel if you find this content helpful. I really appreciate it. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.